What's up?
Yo, what's good? What's good?
How you doing, my man?
Man, had a busy week.
Busy
Busy
week?
week. How about you?
Yeah, ditto, bro. Before we get started though, so we can do this roundtable discussion, let's bring in our newest member of the team, Unbreakable
Right.
Souls. Um,
AL.
yeah,
AL.
aka
Chocolate Thunder.
Stop, pause. I'm out on
oh,
that.
Chocolate
Flag on the
Thunder's in
play.
the house.
Oh man, what's going on, fellas?
Man, so
Uh,
thank you for being a part of our family. Now we are three the hard way, they call it.
right.
That's it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Being with two brothers that have amazing stories and are fighting every day and making it happen. It's an honor just to be a part of it. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same, brother. Very much the same.
we're so glad you're here, man. I mean, Gene and I have been rocking this and killing it, but I think the flavor that you had, that chocolateness that you
Yeah, man, where my whistle at, man? You say that one more time. you
Flag
got
on the
you
play.
got one more chocolate, bro.
I got one more
Man,
again. One more
one
Oh,
more, man. One more.
again. No
they gonna
audience.
call me.
This is
So
my
my name
dog.
is Caramel Delight.
No, Unbreakable
Uh,
Souls, Unbreakable Soul Nation. These are my boys. These are my
yes,
boys.
sir.
These are my ride or dies, and I love these guys with the love of Christ. Kind of a Jonathan David relationship out of the Bible. So
Yeah.
um, I couldn't think of two other brothers to be doing shows with. So I appreciate y'all so much. So I just thought fitting. We've talked on some really hard topics, and not saying that today's show is not going to be a hard topic, but you got three brothers together, and I thought, coming out of some of those harder topics, what better thing to talk about than brotherhood?
Yeah.
So we want to jump into Unbreakable Souls today, brotherhood. Out the gate, is there anything that's on your mind, either one of you guys, about brotherhood?
Yeah, just like for me, just having the knowledge that I have brothers who care about me, who've been through similar things. We have similar goals. Is just encouraging because in society, it kind of creates that the distance between men because it's soft to be to be chummy with a lot of dudes. Unfortunately, I don't understand that mentality, but that's the way society has it set up, where we're supposed to be isolated, and then we wonder why we are the first to have heart attacks or first to be deeply depressed or highly on drugs or alcohol or whatever be the case. So yeah, just having the camaraderie of brothers who I know been through some things I've been through or similar, and still just pushing through, finding the light in the darkness, and just being, no matter what, being their best selves. It's encouraging and deeply appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it even goes into the it's not what you know, but who you know.
Right.
Mm,
We always hear that saying, but generally we relate it to like social climbing and
right.
finances and all those types of things. But when it just comes down to the core of who you are, and just being a man and making it through life's difficulties and struggles, it's not about what you know. A lot of times it's who you know, who's praying for you, who's got your back,
Right.
who are you having those tough conversations with, who's holding you accountable. And so
Right.
brotherhood is important. It's like iron sharpens iron, and I
Right.
wholeheartedly believe that. So, yeah, brotherhood it is. We think about, man, the fraternities,
Yeah.
you know, military, all these
Right.
different organizations where you see men excel. It's because there's that brotherhood. There's
Yeah.
the healthy competition, the constructive criticism. There's a lot of components to it, and so yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. And then me coming from a coaching background, and building teams, and you
Yeah.
can't have strong teams without brotherhood.
Right.
Um, and then you threw that military component that you're in a foxhole, and
Yes.
you better be down with that dude next to you because
Right.
his life is on the line and your life is on the line. So I mean, that's
Right.
huge. So Again, I couldn't have. I'm so thankful I got two brothers that I know got my back from the gate, and or ride or die. So, but yeah, let's jump in. Let me pull his points up here.
Yeah.
I wanted this first one. I think it's huge. Talking about shared experiences. So, I mean, brotherhood often stems from shared experiences, whether they're familiar, cultural, or communal. These experiences create bonds of trust and understanding that can last a lifetime. So, where does that land with you guys?
Yeah. So kind of going back to what you said about like being in a foxhole together, it's like that experience will for always, link you because you know that I had his back, he had my back, and like literally life or death situation, I can count on this person. So you'll forever be intrinsically connected to that person, and it's the same like when you go through trauma in life. You have somebody who's there. You know, that shoulder that you can cry on, that sounding board. And it's like you will always remember those experiences and look at that person fondly
Mhm.
because y'all shared that trauma or whatever it was that you experienced.
Well, and to your point, Dean, I'm thinking even a step behind the foxhole, man. So the training you
Oh
mentioned
yeah,
trauma.
right,
So I mean, part of that training is a traumatic experience. I mean,
right.
real talk. My boy's about to put me through some trauma starting on Monday. I'm thinking, uh,
Get them together, brother. Get them together.
I know
Yeah,
you happy about that.
he coming to the Iron Jungle. He's ready to get it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
But
but
no, the experience that you go through before you get in the dilemma or the
Right,
situation, you've built that relationship up over the course of time and during different circumstances or situations. So when hell or war does break out in your life, you know who those people are. Those are the people that are going to jump in the foxhole with you, not jump out.
right,
So
right.
where are you at with that, AL?
no, another thought about the shared experience because there's one thing like when you're in something together.
Mm-hmm.
There's also we go through different phases of life at different times. And so sometimes you have a brother who's, like you said, a little bit ahead of you. And so they've experienced something. So they can tell you, like, hey, like, I know what's headed up the road. I know
Right.
what things you need to look out for. I know where you may need to detour. And so that's important as well. And that's where, like, really being open, honest, transparent, and being able to just share our general life experiences and seeing where they intersect. That
Right.
allows us to be able to help each other and really sharpen each other. So, there are things that we go through together. There's also things that we've gone through separately. And as long as we're open and transparent about our stories, it can help. It can help each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the power of what you just said, all of it was good, but the transparency piece,
Yeah. Amazing.
that I think about shared experiences, but shared experiences with transparency are two different situations. All of
Right.
us have shared experiences with brothers, right?
Right.
Right.
But how many can you even count on one hand that you have shared experiences with brothers with transparency?
Yeah. It's rare,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
One of
Yeah.
the things that you're like, hmm.
But so let me ask you guys though, why do you think that is? Like, why are men so guarded in conversations with each other?
Yeah, I would say because I mean society frames it that way. Like you're not supposed to be close to another man and be open and vulnerable, or you're soft,
Right.
or even they get to the point where like if you're too close to another man, oh they must be gay.
Mhm.
Like silly stuff like that that has nothing to do with truth. It's just society kind of frames it as it is something that makes you weak.
Well, I love all of that. I would even say, to your point, is we've adopted a worldview of the world instead of a biblical worldview, where in the Bible or a biblical worldview, that's taught to be honor, you know,
Hmm.
to be your brother's keeper. That scripture we keep throwing out there, iron and sharpen ironing. That's what it's
Right,
talking about, being there to strengthen your brother in every facet of his life.
right.
That's powerful, man.
What about trust?
I am my brother's keeper. Yeah.
Like have you ever wanted to be transparent and felt like I don't know if I trust him with this story or this part of my life?
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't that stem from prior experience of hurt and betrayal, where you did extend that olive branch to that person, and you were wounded or taken advantage of, or viewed as soft, or whatever?
Yeah,
Hey,
I would think so. Like, I think at some point, all of us have, shared something with somebody, and then it ends up getting out, or maybe they view you differently. As you're transparent and you're saying, "Hey, this is part of my story," and now they're looking at you different. And
Right.
so I
Right.
think that there's a trust factor that a lot of times we have to get over.
Right.
Yeah, it keeps
yeah,
us closed off.
AL and the folks, Gene and Coach, actually was on a Facebook discussion that was quite interesting because it actually involves our mayor here in Durham, who actually spoke about entrepreneurship and enterprise at the DNC, and they're exactly going to do an event later on this evening to celebrate his being able to speak about Zwelly's, which is his restaurant. But there's been some back and forth conversations similar to what you've been talking about, and I'd love to read one of these quotes and hear y'all's thoughts around this because it actually plays into what y'all have been saying. So one of the Facebook posts that I was reading in this back and forth conversation was saying, let's tell the real issue of the problem with our youth. It's called bad parents and the separation of the father inside the home. This was all a systematic psychological warfare because you have strong males inside the household, you have disciplined males, but you have males that are predominantly in a female household. You will have a submissive and a subordinate group of individuals that are learned and taught how to be controlled by the corporations and their agenda. Let's start putting penalties against bad parents whose children cause destruction behavior in our society. And one of the things that I raised to that particular individual that posted that was that I knew some folks that were in some strong black males of different ages that even some that came out of a single family household and all along those lines. So I felt that he was maybe being a little bit overly generalizing because I have seen some of what he's talking about, but I was just wondering y'all's thoughts along those lines because he also had something else that I was going to raise as well in that same line. But like I said, one of my counters was I've known some people that have been effective leaders that have come out of different types of households, but not saying that we don't need to be strong male leaders.
Hmm.
Um, I would say for sure. I mean, it all depends on. I mean, even within the household, you may not have that strong male or whatever, but as long as you have that in your community, you know, then it's easy for you to become that person because you have an example. You have someone to look forward to. But it's imperative that that young men have that a strong male figure, whether it be a father or uncle or a cousin or family friend or someone down the block. Uh, but yeah, that's absolutely essential.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it comes down to choice. And like Gene said, because like I grew up with my mother, but she had me in church, and there were a lot of strong men in church that I could kind of look up to and model after. I was in sports, and so Coach G, I know you can attest to this. As a coach, you become sort of like a father, uncle slash big brother figure in their lives as well. And so, I think that it's incumbent upon the women who are raising single boys to put them in situations where they are able to be around men in some form. Maybe it's not the
Right,
father, maybe it's not a close relative, but there are so many programs and outlets for that that it needs to be taken advantage of. But ultimately, once we become adults, it is personal choice because the
Mhm.
neighborhood I grew up in, there's probably about 10 or 15 guys around my age, and maybe one or two of them have fathers in the home.
Mhm.
And
right,
to see how it played out, now we're all in our, late 30s, early 40s. Um, there's a bunch of them that don't take care of their kids. There's a bunch of them who are excellent fathers,
Right.
beyond what they experienced in their own life. And so there is that personal choice that comes into account where at some point you have to hold yourself accountable and say, hey, I'm gonna change the narrative. I'm gonna shift my family tree and it's my responsibility.
No, I
Mhm.
love that.
yeah,
I
most
love that. I
definitely.
think I'm all about community. I'm obviously a coach, so I'm all about community. I'm thinking about my childhood. My father was in my home. So the narrative about the fatherless homes and the kids end up different ways. Well, mine was in my house every day, but he was a provider. He worked, so he was there, but he wasn't there. So the father figures for me were like my grandfather, that I went to see in the summer. My coaches, Al, to your point on that, so that's how when I became a father, I focused heavily on that, and I became a father figure as a coach for several young men, young women. Being a youth pastor, becoming a father figure for so many young people. So I just think it takes a village, and I think I love the way you ended that, AL, with once you reach the age of accountability. I think in biblical terms it's 13, 14, but we might even just push that up for society to maybe like 18, 19.
Right.
Now it's on you. You got to make a choice. Hopefully mom or whoever the people in your life as a child have surrounded you with a village of people, and maybe they haven't, but now it's on to you. If those are things that you're lacking, now it's on you to go get that and surround yourselves with those types of people in your life. I'm gonna touch on that here in a
But
minute. Next
I, I
topic.
feel like I feel like that even just goes into like the simple golden rule that we learned as children, like treat others as you want to be treated. And so even if you didn't have a role model, you know what it was to be a fatherless young man.
Yeah.
You know, you know what it was like. You know what the pains were. You know what moments broke you down and tore you down. And so it's really just a matter of saying, okay, this is what I wish I had, and just be
Right.
that.
And
Be that, provide it. Right.
Just be that.
Yeah, don't
Definitely.
sit there or plan it out, walk it out. And just as you just to your point, be that.
Right.
Hey, Coach, along those same lines, I know y'all got some other things y'all want to get to, but one of the other things that the person said in that comment, and I'll just paraphrase this one, is that sometimes, and I have seen this happen before, that there are strong women that can kind of like be both the father and the mother figure and everything, but sometimes that if the uncle figures or somebody that is not their biological father falls into that place, that sometimes those women that are so strong sometimes push the man away that are those uncle figures and everything. So I was wondering y'all's comments on that, because that's kind of what the gentleman was saying, is that sometimes he saw people that could be those uncle figures or those mentor figures, but because of their own resentment, they would sometimes push those strong men away because they still had some stereotypes based on how they had been treated by the men in their lives.
Mm. I mean, I would say like I've got a female dominant family, for sure. Like from the aunts to sisters, I've got four sisters, and so I've got a female dominant family, and so I've seen the things that cause them to be more guarded. Like maybe you have the coach, not Coach G though, not Coach G. That's a good name right there. But you have the coach who,
Clean it up, brother.
yeah, I got to clean that up for Coach G, but. You got the coach that's, I want to be the uncle figure or the father figure, and really he has ulterior motives. Do you even see it in the church? Unfortunately, let me get close to the kid to get close to the mom, and so I think there's some of that. And then, like you said, just resentment. Like whenever we hold on to trauma and we don't learn how to forgive, accept whatever it was that happened, and then learn how to reconnect with people, we're always going to have that wall that people have to climb. And so I understand why they do it, but at the same time, it is kind of to the detriment of their own children.
Right. Yeah, and as a parent, you have to be a long-term thinker. You can't just be about what's good for you in the moment. You have to think about, okay, how is this going to affect them along the lines? So constantly pushing away other men, it's like it makes them resent their own, masculinity in a lot of ways. And that's what what they call now toxic masculinity. Where it's super egoic, and that everything is everybody else's fault, or it's rageful, or however it shows up. It just creates again, like a hatred for themselves, the version of themselves they see in the mirror every day.
Oh man, look, I read this statistic. It's crazy. I've never seen this before until like last week, right? But so they were doing research and they collected suicide notes from like a whole bunch of men, and then they analyzed the notes for like keywords that were used over and over, across so many letters. Do you know what the main ones were? I feel useless.
Yeah. Yep.
That was like the number one word, useless. And so that lends to the fact that men need to be needed. I
Right.
say that to say when we talk about, you know, the single mother and the trauma that can be placed on the young man, think of how many women, especially on social media, because a lot of times they think like
I don't
kids
need a
don't see
man.
social media. Yeah, I don't need a man. I don't need. So think about the little boy that's like, okay, I am a young man. I'm becoming a man. And so from a
Right.
little boy, you've been telling me like what I'm growing into isn't needed.
Wow.
It,
And
right.
so then when they hit
Right.
a point of like actually experiencing life, you don't know what that trigger may be where he says, you know what, I'm useless. And that was the
Right.
number one key word in like hundreds of suicide letters.
That's powerful, man. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
I'm glad you brought that point up.
Yeah. And then
Because I mean,
another thing I want to throw out there that you kind of said, I think Gene at the end of, or I think AL at the end of yours. I want to be in my shared experience. I want to be balanced because I learned one thing as a young father, 19, 18, 19, and then growing up with no roadmap on how to become a father, not really seeing good fatherhood in front of me other than probably my grandfather. But I guess, I don't know, that's on it. But anyway, my point in that is balance, because as I grew and became father figure for other people, one of the things that I learned that brought a ridge between me and my sons was them always seeing their father out. Where I felt I spent so much time investing in them, um, they kind of still saw, until they grew up and matured, they still kind of saw that daddy's out here and daddy's over here, daddy's over there. What about my time? But I always felt like I gave them the best of my time or the most of my time. What do you guys think about that?
I'll go first.
Um,
Yeah.
not the preacher's kid syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the preacher's kid syndrome. They always say like the preacher's kid is the worst. They feel neglected because dad is so busy. You know, they're seeing him help with other families, and he's at the hospital praying over this person, and maybe he missed a basketball game or missed,
Yeah.
you know, some important event. And a lot of times we don't understand like how important certain things are to our children because we're looking at it through our own lens. And so it's like, oh,
Right.
it's one game, but that one game might have been the world
Can
to
be
them,
everything.
you know,
Right.
and so now they're holding on to that, and it creates that resentment. So I would say it's kind of like the preacher's kid syndrome.
But I,
Yeah.
I think I think so many kids, I love what you're saying, are listening to what society's saying. Because I'm using my personal example, to your point, the things you just said, is I was that dad who didn't miss a game. I didn't miss anything. I didn't miss anything. I was at everything: music, basketball, school stuff, anything that they did, I was there. And because my father wasn't there,
But,
so I was the one that said, "Okay, I didn't get these things, so I'm going to give these things to my sons." But I still feel like at some point they listened to the noise of the world instead of looking at what was actually in front of them, because they had the father who was present, who provided love and support and comfort all along while I was helping this kid, that kid, all these other people. So fathers, I feel like we've got to have balance. And even if our kids, because perception is reality, gentlemen,
uh,
perception is reality, even though I would say their reality was wrong. But if that's how they perceived it, then
And it's the
that's where
truth.
balance steps in. You got to step back and give more time and show yourself more present with your own kids, because first ministry starts in your own household.
Right.
Were you about to say,
I,
Gene?
yeah, I was going to say, and what actually we need to transpire in situations like that. Like we need to have those sit downs with your children. Sit down and ask them what they need. What do you need from me? You know, how can I uh, create a environment where you feel safe, where you feel loved, where you feel seen? How can I do that? And that, I mean, and with that, you allowing yourself to be vulnerable to your children who see you as a strong figure. So it kind of sets an example of, okay, my dad is not so full of himself that he can't humble himself and ask me, what can I do better as a father and as a
Right,
person?
right,
that's
right.
good. That's
I think that's
good.
hugely important.
That's good.
I used
Good.
to have those type of conversations with my children often. Hey, what can I do differently? You know, or Dad, I didn't like that. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so what can I look? You know, it was my perspective. What can I do differently? What can I do better? So, and that's what I
Well,
guess
yeah,
is something major.
I think as fathers, we've got to have balance, and to your point, we got to always be humble and evolving. Knowing that we're not perfect, our children are not perfect, and just continuing to grow, which leads us into our next point, which is support system. Brotherhood provides a vital support system where individuals can rely on one another during challenging times. This mutual support fosters emotional resilience and personal growth. And if we're going to jump into support system, Gene, you probably already know where I'm going with this. I think every man, and I'm going to even push it down to, I'm going to start. I'm a new grandfather to my first grandson.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks. I think it's coming up on 3 weeks now.
Big pop.
One of the things, big pop.
You're right.
But one of the things I want to instill in him early in his life is to locate his Paul, his Barabbas, and his Timothy. His Paul is that older father figure, or more. Doesn't necessarily be older, but someone who's more mature, who's more seasoned in life than he is, who pours. All he gets from that guy, that person, is he just pours into him, pours and pours, life and belief and encouragement, support, love, all these things. And then he's got to encounter his Barabbas. His Barabbas is his boy, that he was rolling with, his ride or die, that when he's wrong, he's going to hold him accountable. He's accountability partner. Man, you shouldn't have done that, man. You shouldn't have talked to that girl like that. You should have handled that situation better. You should have paid that bill. You shouldn't have spent that money on this thing over there. But that's also, that dude is going to be his biggest cheerleader. He's going to be the one that's celebrating him when everybody else is turning their back and thinking he's not going to be able to do it. He's going to want to be the one pushing him. And then finally, he's got to have that Timothy, that man or that person that he himself is doing all the pouring. No expectations coming back other than him pouring himself. Everything he's learned, everything he's been taught and experienced, he's pouring that into that younger person. I think a man is full or at his best when he has his Paul, his Barabbas, and his Timothy. What you guys think?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
So, I think most people automatically understand the Paul and Barabbas because we want to be poured into, and we understand having that accountability partner. But why is it important for us to pour into someone else? Where does that come into play?
To the point that was made in the beginning about, I think it was you, AL, men need to be needed. You were talking about, Gene, you were talking about the mothers.
That was AL. Yeah.
Okay, watching the young sons watching their mothers talk about how they don't need a man, stuff like that. It's innate by God, put into a young man or a male to be needed. So that pouring into that young man fulfills that need. So I think sometimes men are looking for that from their wife or their girlfriend. I need to be needed by my girl, or something like that, or situations like that. But sometimes that need can be fulfilled just in you pouring into another young man who doesn't have a father figure. Back to the original that we started the whole discussion about.
I think another benefit to it is, they say that you don't know something unless you can teach it to somebody else. You don't truly know it until you can teach somebody else. And so it almost reinforces your beliefs. Whatever you're pouring into them, it becomes more solidified in you as well. So, no, I just wanted to hit on that because I know, a lot of times we just hear that, someone's pouring into me and my accountability partner, but nobody talked about the benefits of pouring into others. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's essential. That's your way of giving back. That's you reap what you sow. So as I pour into, I'm sorry, Gene, I'm gonna be quiet.
No, you saying what I was just about to say that.
Different voice. You say it. I want you to say it. It's on your heart.
But yes, so what you give to others, you receive. And that's period. It's the law of attraction. Everything that you put out, you receive back tenfold. So just giving that, and also if you look at research, one of the things they tell you about people who experience depression, if you go out and do something to someone else who has less than you or perceived less than you, then you feel good because your body releases chemicals and endorphins that help you. Okay, I did something to improve someone else's life. So now my life is improved as a counteract.
Well, to your point, it reminds me when we were doing a show and you were talking about the circle of life.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
Maybe speak for a minute on that. I thought that was so powerful. It kind of what you just said, but at circle of life, you had a different kind of spin on that. So
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it's just that everything feeds into the other. Um, what you do for someone else comes back to you, and it's a constant cycle. You feed, something is being fed, and it's just over and over again. You get that cycle, that return, and then it just makes life better. But if you were to do something negative, you get the same cycle over and over again. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
right.
Right.
Just had a quick question for both of you, all three of you. That's why I popped back in and everything. But how much is the brotherhood? Because y'all talking about brotherhood come from different circles. Because I find that a lot of times your brotherhood isn't always the same folks you expect. Like I've got this Pod TV brotherhood that I see y'all at all the time, but it's part of the Unbreakable Souls. But there are some other brothers that I work with on this network, like Grant McGaw, and also my friend Zach, who's got his own network that's in that funk music space. But so there's that kind of brotherhood. But I don't know. I was just thinking about my younger brother, and my younger brother has a couple of friend circle groups, for lack of a better term. Like I've mentioned to y'all before, that he's got his Slingshot Club, which is the car club, and all along those lines. So that's a lot of brothers that he bonds with under that love of the cars and everything.
Right.
And the same thing with what he pulled me into some probably 10 or 15 years ago, because this is about to be football season. So the fantasy football stuff that he got me into. So I'm trying to figure out what players I'm going to draft and all along those lines. But we've got a lot of brothers and some sisters that are involved in that. So there's that brotherhood and the common interest, because there's the love, both the love of football, but also the love of statistics and the players and what they're doing, because that's what fantasy football is all about. So I just wondered y'all's thoughts around those bonds that you develop, and maybe they're not always bonds from the traditional sources like church and school, but they're from different organizations as well. So I just wanted y'all's thoughts about that, because I know that Gene has got his band, which is a band of brothers and sisters, and I'm sure you got some things even with your coaching. And I don't know that much about what AL's got, but maybe he's got some clubs that he's involved with as well. But I was just wondering how that plays into y'all's development of these bonds that are part of the brotherhood.
Yeah. So actually, the funniest thing is you led right into the third point, which is diversity and inclusion. So that's perfect timing, Mark.
Yeah.
So to go on to the point, brotherhood transcends differences in background, beliefs, and lifestyles. Embracing diversity within brotherhood can lead to richer relationships and a deeper understanding of the world. So to that point, like my friends all are just vastly different and very much the same. And it's the differences between us that actually bring us closer, because it's like I want to learn about that. And so you grow as a person, and then that bridges you tighter together as comrades. And I have friends who are from different backgrounds, different sexual orientations, different colors. My best friend, shoot, he's a white guy, and I mean, like, we've been best friends since I was 10, and like that is my best friend. Like, we talk every day at some point. But his lifestyle was similar to mine and very different. And through beginning to know him, I started to learn different skills, and now I use. So.
But just on that same line, because as you were saying that, I was thinking that my younger brother that I mentioned, my only brother in that sense, because it's just me and Malik, but he was very much into video games. He's still into video games to some degree. He actually developed a pen pal friend, and that pen pal friend actually at one point decided that they wanted to move. They were living, I think, in Philadelphia or something along those lines. So it was that love of the video games and their communications and their talking. He now lives in the same state that I live in. He lives in North Carolina, because when he needed to find a place to move and a job, that friendship actually helped him line up the job that he got and everything. Because he's like, how can I find a job? And then I'll reach out to my brother, and Malik told him about some of the development things in this area. And it is my understanding from him that he helped him come down here from up north and everything along those lines. But it was that friendship that they had over literally a video game. I think it might have even been Call of Duty, like one of those war type games, and they became friends over that game. And at the point in his life that he needed to move, he was like, "Well, I'm thinking about coming down to North Carolina." And he moved not to my city. I think he's in one of our cities in the adjacent county and everything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think for me, diversity and inclusion, I'm always trying to walk in someone else's space. You know, especially when we just talked about the Paul, Barabbas, Timothy, especially the Timothys of my life. I want to enter their space. I don't want them to have to come up to me. So you mentioned video games. So like one of the things I did with my sons, I mean, I like video games, but I'm not the super gamer like they were. But some of our best conversations was dad sitting down next to them, putting on the headphones and playing video games with them. Or just finding the young people, you know, that we're pouring into, finding the areas or space that they are interested in and jumping into them, which now creates an opportunity of trust and respect.
Yeah.
Um, the hard lessons or questions or things that you want to now share with them, now they're open to.
Yeah.
You know, they're vulnerable to because you've entered their space.
Right.
Kind of takes me back to Jesus feeding the 5,000. This is foundational for me in my faith. And I hope you guys think about this in relationships, that what I take from that lesson is that he met the natural need of the people first. Him being God, he knew everything they needed spiritually, emotionally, physically, whatever. But he understood the concept. If I meet the natural need of these people first, then that brought instant credibility, trust, and rapport. Now, the spiritual things that he wanted to share with them, they were open. They had an open ear, ready to hear.
Yeah,
Right.
it makes a lot of sense. As you were just saying that, Coach, I was just thinking about something that got some negative criticism or negative pushback and everything. But to me, and I don't know what y'all thought, it was one of the most beautiful moments of fatherhood or a father-son relationship and everything. So I don't know if y'all paid attention to the political landscape this past week because the DNC was going on and everything. But one of the most touching moments that I saw was literally a neurodivergent son of one of the candidates who was so proud of his dad that when he sat and was making his speech, he literally sat there and said, "That's my dad," and everything along those lines. And that was the gentleman that was the vice president's son and everything. So Tim Walz has two kids, one a daughter, and he's also got that neurodivergent son. And that's a whole other type of things that parents have to deal with. Is folks in that ADHD kind of space and everything. And there have been some forces out there that have given him a hard time, but I don't know about the rest of y'all. But when I saw him doing that, it actually teared me up and everything because I'm sitting there going like, he's in the midst of all of that hoopla, he was recognizing that his dad was stepping into a greatness lane and everything.
Yeah. That's good, man. Yeah, that's definitely heartwarming. It's different when your child is proud of you for you being your best self.
Right.
And that also creates the lane for them to do the same thing. You set the example. So yeah, and then like you said, dealing with a child who has ADHD or is on the spectrum.
Right.
When they recognize, like, because their mind operates differently. Actually, their mind operates way more complex than ours do. And when they recognize, moments like that, like you said, stepping into his greatness, is just like, wow, okay, he's very aware, he's very in tune or attuned to what's going on around him, and just to see that I guess the pride in his eyes, man. I can guarantee you, once his father saw that later on, he probably teared up too. That's my son.
What you chomping on, AL?
Oh no, man. Look, I'm just enjoying the conversation. I'm just enjoying the conversation, man. This is good. This is good. But no, I think having a diverse brotherhood is important. I think with anything, like diversity of thought is extremely important, and it's something that's really lost in society now. Like when you think about social media and how the algorithm works, it creates echo chambers because it gives you more of what you think versus having that diversity that challenges your thought and helps you expand. And so a lot of times, like we remain stagnant and we don't grow because our thoughts are never challenged. And so I see that as one of the key benefits of having a diverse brotherhood, different backgrounds, different perspectives, and it challenges you. The other thing is exposure. So like, again, I didn't have my father in the home. The first time I actually went hunting with a friend of mine. That's what
Right.
he did, and so it exposed me to something that I needed to learn as a man. I'm not a handyman. I'm real quick to say that, but I have friends who are, and so having that access to people who have different information is important. And so it's like when you're building your brotherhood, there can be some level of intentionality to that.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on.
I've got my boys that I grew up with. We shared the same experiences, but now that I'm able to select my friends, I'm able to go out and get into different circles. Who do I need in my circle? Like that's something that we have to identify. Like who do I need in my circle and seek those people out so that we can continue to grow.
Sometimes that brotherhood can come at interesting times because you mentioned that you had that friend, Gene, and everything that was one of your best friends that's a white gentleman and all along those lines. And I remember that many years ago when I worked at a pharmaceutical company in like their shipping and receiving department, there was a young fellow there and was in some of the early days, so we're talking 15, 20 years ago, of rap music and everything. And he was definitely a country young gentleman. I mean, we're talking about he was probably the epitome of a redneck, but because he knew that I loved and was interested in music, we developed a bond. Unfortunately, I lost touch with him because he would be sharing his rap lyrics with me. So he would literally be writing these rap lyrics and he would share them with me on his notebook. And they were actually some pretty good rap lyrics. I mean, some of them were dealing with the stereotypical rap things because he was part of the drug culture, for lack of a better term, but there were also some relationship things that were there as well. But I just remember him even to this day, even though we lost touch, but having that bond and him just wanting to share with an elder. Because even at that time, I was probably, if I'm 60 now, I was probably in my 30s or 40s at that time, and he was probably like early 20s and something along those lines. But just sharing that bond with him over a common interest, the interest of music and
Right.
culture.
Right.
Yeah. That's powerful. I learned that concept, I think, pretty early in life, around the church.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a church I went to in the city, and the pastor actually had a mechanic shop across the street from the church. And I would go sit and just watch the OGs play dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dominoes or chess. Checkers
Yeah,
are one of those.
yeah. So, but speaking of diversity and inclusion, it was just so many different types of men would roll through those games. And so I gained so much intel
Mhm.
into different situations or experiences because of that particular situation. It was just powerful.
Yeah.
And obviously in the moment you don't seize the opportunity and realize the value of what you're gaining. But now as a 53-year-old man reflecting back on the knowledge and wisdom that was thrown out in that game was just powerful.
Coach
Yeah.
G, that actually brings a question about brotherhood to you that I was going to ask, and all along those lines. Because another thing that I remember is I've lived in different apartment complexes here in Durham, but one of them I lived in, I think it was called the Oaks and everything. But there was a church. Oftentimes you're trying to find your church home, and it was very much of a Pentecostal church. My family is more raised Baptist, and I consider myself, as I've told y'all on this show, more spiritual than religious. But one of the things I do remember of that church was a couple of them times going out on like some male bonding field trips and everything. Like I think they did one to do gardens and we just sat there and bonded over things. I think there was another time that we went to one of our local restaurants. It might have been Mayflower or something like that. So I know the pandemic got people away from some of those things and everything. So I just wondered, are the churches still doing those male bonding things? Because like I said, this was probably 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And I actually enjoyed that conversation. Might not always enjoyed every aspect of that particular church, but I did enjoy those male bonding trips. So I was just wondering, as one that's involved in the church, both you, well, primarily you, Coach G, and I think AL as well, is that something y'all are seeing the churches continue to do? Because that is a place where the brotherhood can be built.
I would say there was a long stretch of time where it wasn't. So we had that when I was younger. We used to like go camp out and just have different bonding events. As I got older, it seems like that fed out. It just kind of faded out. Not sure why. Maybe I don't know. A lot of men left the church. I would say like kind of early 2000s, but I do see a resurgence of that That's one of the things that we do with Elevating Men. And so we have a monthly prayer breakfast. We call it the Man Cave Prayer Breakfast. We do it every month. We just get together. We pick different topics. We discuss them. We have speakers come in, etc. And I'm seeing more churches around the city beginning to adopt that. And so, yeah, I think it's coming back. I think it's making a comeback.
Well, hey, good point. I want to pivot in this space, really to throw at AL and Gene, since we're talking about diversity and inclusion, in relationship or marriage. So, and now you're, as you're dating and marrying, now you're bridging two families together. What a better example of diversity and inclusion and bringing differences together to make one.
Right.
Speak into that. What's that look like? How's that feel?
Yeah. So when you marry someone, you're merging families, you're merging mindsets, finances, you're merging so many different things, and it makes you aware of parts of yourself, like where you need to grow, because that's what a partner is about. They're supposed to help you strengthen your weaknesses and further fortify your strengths. Um, so yeah, I mean that is a great opportunity, especially if like you have kids in a situation like that.
Right.
Oh man, like now you become a role model. So it's like you have to. If you didn't have that example, then you create it in your head, or create it through your character. Just because you know what's needed as a guardian. So yeah, it helps you automatically grow. It's like you're put on, you're put there, push forward. Now it's time to grow, and these kids are going to follow you, or this relationship is going to stretch you in ways that you never expected.
Also,
So much.
I think love makes you more open-minded.
Right.
Automatically. So if there's somebody that you have no connection to, there's no love there, and you don't see eye to eye on the topic, you just dismiss it as I don't see eye to eye with that person, and you keep it moving. But when it's someone that you're trying to form a bond with, especially long term, as in marriage or a long term relationship, you could have two completely different perspectives. But because you love that person, you're like, well, let me hear them out and at least try to see their point of view, because it can, create another bond. It's another level of trust and intimacy when we can let go of a portion of ourselves to pick up a portion of them. And so I think that that would be the biggest way that I see it really stretching you, is just the love actually being a part of the equation makes you more open-minded automatically.
That's good.
Coach, if I could just add something to that, and I know it doesn't always happen because I know when I'm not trying to touch on a sensitive topic that it doesn't always happen, including to some of the people that are here in this particular room. But it is beautiful that I have seen occasionally a brotherhood being developed by the expanded family, because sometimes when you have that blended family, they're expanded families. And I have seen a few cases. I've seen some cases that are not, it is not always able to happen, but I have seen some families where the ex and the current actually become friends and become brothers in their own right and everything. So I've actually seen and witnessed that. I think in some of my brother's situations and everything, where he became friends with that person that was the original spouse of the other person and everything. So it can happen. It doesn't always happen, because sometimes people, coming back to our conversation around toxicity and putting some of the past behind you, that they can not let it happen. But I have seen it happen where it can happen, and all along those lines. So just to throw that out there, because I've seen some brothers that literally you said they're going like, wait a minute, that's for your ex and this is your current, and y'all still best of friends. But I've literally seen that happen.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I mean, I haven't personally experienced that situation, but I think that's beautiful that it can happen. I've seen it happen. I'm just saying, me personally, that's never happened to me, but it's definitely possible, and I think it's powerful. So,
So I would say now it's not necessarily it's not the romantic aspect of it. Like there are family members of my ex who I still talk to like weekly. They check on me. They call me uncle. Uncle Gene. I'm Uncle Gene to them. I've known them since they were like 4 or 5, and I still talk to them often, even though my ex and I are no longer together, and things, gone toxic, but there are still people in that family who still regard me highly, which I was nervous about, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
think I think that just the fact that you have a person who is from a past relationship that no longer exists, and you still have that bond. That means to me that bond was something that was genuine and
Right.
authentic. So yeah,
and that bond can last for a long time. It wasn't a male that I was talking to. It was actually a young lady I was talking to, but she actually works here in the center, and she was telling me that she's got some 64 nieces and nephews. And I'm going like, well, how many people you got in your family and everything? But what she was breaking down to me was that those weren't all, to your point, Gene, those weren't all her natural siblings. There were people that
right,
were friends' kids and other
right,
kids, because she's like me, has no kids of her own, but she's got like some 64, because she literally was showing a couple of those kids were probably like 5 or 6, if that age. They might have been a little bit older. Literally the art around here and the building around here on the iPhone. Coming back to technology, she was showing them the building because they have that kind of bond and everything. So you're right that bond can also exist, and it can be that extended family. I was actually talking on Zach's show earlier about how important the extended family can be, even among our various brothers and even some of the sisters as well.
yeah.
I like all of that. I think our next point is a good ending point for us for today. It's been a great discussion. Responsibility and accountability. I mean, just let that marinate. Responsibility and
Oh yeah,
accountability. I mean, being a part of a brotherhood often comes with a sense of responsibility to look out for one another, kind of how we talked about in the beginning. This accountability helps us strengthen the relationships and promotes a culture of care and respect. Think about that. If we could get back to the original mindset of brotherhood and just ending with that last piece of that, that helps to strengthen relationships and promotes a culture of care and respect. Just imagine what that would look like. And I'm talking about all men, but right now specifically in the Black community, if we as Black men got back to a culture of care and respect for one another, what would
right,
that look like? How much? I mean, to me, that's like a nuclear bomb exploding in our community, but in
right,
a positive way,
right,
and bringing us back to our original self. I'm thinking about our families and culture in the 20s and 30s and 40s, 50s, before the introduction of like the ghettos and different things like that, welfare and systems like that were designed to divide us.
yeah,
That point, the design to divide us, like um, when you listen to our music, it's just our music, but we're talking about killing each other, robbing each other,
Right.
taking each other's women, and so it goes back to the beginning when we were talking about trust. It was like, okay, well, a key thing we need to do is open up to each other and have these
right,
conversations. But one reason we don't is because we don't trust each other. So then you
Mhm.
have to ask why, and then you look at these root causes: the music, social media, past hurts, past traumas, those things tear us apart. And so I love what you said there. We do have to learn how to like rebuild our brotherhood as a community. Not just the three or four of us, but at large. And how do we do that? And so I guess that would be my question to you guys. Like, what are some things that we can do to really start rebuilding that community of brotherhood on a larger scale?
Can I jump
right.
in on that?
Go
Well, two things. One, I think, as
Mark
you
lit
kind
up.
of
Can I
alluded,
throw it in? Like a cookie was thrown out there.
yeah, a
I was
couple of things.
pulled up.
Well, a couple of things I was going to bring into the whole notion is that one, because y'all know that part of one of my missions in life is you have to understand that history and understand our history and all along those lines, because that was intentional. Like I said, I'm here in Durham, and they literally ran a highway through us to destroy the Black Wall Street. But I love a quote that we have here that talks about how literally everything from cradle to grave you could have within our community. So we need to find ways to go back to supporting our different business owners that are doing things like that. Matter of fact, later on, I told y'all I'm going to go probably about 30 minutes to an hour to Black August in the Park, which is celebrating our
Yes,
culture. And there's a number of them around the country and all along those lines. But it talks about how literally in this city, there was a man that could design your suit. Literally, you can make your own suit like a tailor, or he could design your shoes, and they even make your bed, your mattress. And we got away from that and all along. But the other things that I get frustrated by, and I know some of my other friends get frustrated by, and I've heard all three of you say that to some degree, is this notion. The OJs did this song called Backstabber, and I think sometimes we take it too much at heart, and we are sitting there too much worrying about people stabbing us in the back and not figure and like taking it too much at heart in the what they're doing versus trying to find a common ground and everything. Because that's where I get frustrated. It's got that crab in the barrel attitude. It's like, well, I don't like him, so I'm gonna find a way to tear him down versus building him up. So I think we got to find ways to build our fellow brothers up and not tear them down, even if we disagree with them. I mean, there's people that are supporting that orange man that I don't like, but I'm not going to tear them down. They've got the right to do that, even though that's their prerogative. I will do things in my capital and my area to build the other person up. But I think sometimes we're too busy tearing people down and not finding ways to raise them up.
Yeah. So I would say, like, we have to get back to the community mindset. Understanding that our life affects everyone around us. So we need to be authentic and genuine in our individual relationships, and then as it pertains to a community, I love the example of the Black Panther Party.
Yeah.
They had everything set up for their communities, where they had food, education, protection, all the essentials were taken care of. It was a community. Everyone talked. Everyone knew what the right hand and the left hand were doing. There was, obviously you have problems when you have communities, but it's something that you could work through. But there was a structure set up where they were constantly assessing the needs of the people around them and then providing programs to bridge those gaps. So we had to just get back to the mindset that I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. I see you need something. If I can provide it, then I provide it. And then the mutual support, like you said about the laundromat or the tailor, or the cobbler down the street. Hey, let's start rebuilding our own community so that we can look at each other and know that I'm doing something to help you, you're doing something to help me. So now that automatically creates a bond. We've gotten away from that, going to Walmart as opposed to going to these mom and pop shops, which has created, again, a dissonance in our communities. So we just need to get back to supporting each other and being genuine and authentic when we interact with each other individually and collectively, understanding that we all have really the same goal. Now, how it looks, how you manifest, getting to your goal is on you, but we all have the same end goal, which is to be happy, to be provided for, to be cared for, and all of those things. So community mindset to me is what's sorely lacking now.
Yeah, you guys know my heart. I'm all about community. One of my concerns, though, as I'm diving a little deeper into this, I've been talking a lot about lately post-traumatic slave syndrome, and just how much it's innate. The experiences of our forefathers is a large part of what keeps us separated. And again, that was intentional. And I think some of the things that they're being said and done now are subliminal and pull out that trauma inside of Black people and push us away from things that we know we should be doing. We were at our absolute best when we were together, when we were family. We took care of our neighborhoods. We took care of our communities, and we've gotten away from that.
Totally gotten away from that. I know I read it before, but I don't think AL was here on the last time I read it. But that quote that I had, because it's a short one, but I love this quote, and I'm going to read it to y'all. But it's actually from W.E.B. Du Bois. Today, there is a singular group in Durham where a Black man may get up in the morning from a mattress made by a Black man, in a house which a Black man built out of lumber, which Black man cut and planned. He may put on a suit which he brought at a colored haberdashery, and socks knit at a colored mill. He may cook victuals from a colored grocery on a stove which a Black man fashioned. He may earn his living working for a colored man, be sick in a colored hospital, and buried from a colored church. And the Negro insurance company will pay his widow enough to keep his children in a colored school. This is surely progress. So that was what W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in his book, The Upbuilding of Black Durham, the Success of the Negroes and Their Value to a Tolerant and Helpful Southern City.
And it breaks my heart that that's gone.
Yeah.
So I just say, brothers, we got to do our part. It's that old ripple effect, in the pond, that you throw the pebble in the pond and you think, oh, I can't make a difference, just me. But what if there's a million of us standing around watching the show and saying, what if I just start?
Right.
What if I do my part? Then that ripple effect going through the community will just be powerful. So I'm excited that I'm surrounded with 3 other brothers that are doing their part in the Black community. And I would say communities, because we don't just limit ourselves to the Black community, but that's home.
Right.
That's home. Your first ministry is your own home. So, and I think that's where I'm always outside groups say things about, why are you so focused on the Black community? But that's home. I mean, that's where my focus should start, is in my own home. So I applaud y'all for the efforts and the actions that you've taken, the sacrifices that you make, doing shows like this, to be vulnerable, to share your heart, and, just do your part, make that ripple effect start with you.
Yeah, no doubt.
We applaud you as well. Everything that you're doing.
And thinking of applauding, I think we should go out with Gene's song, that second song, not the first one. I think we should go out with Gene's song and all along those lines. It's another powerful song, and he's got all his comrades and everything along those lines. So we're sorry with y'all. I think we should go out with that song.
Okay. Thank you, brothers.
Thank you all. Yeah. Thank you all. Y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of the week. Be safe. Thank you all for being here with us at Unbreakable Soul.
Peace.
Peace.
Shots of clash ups in the creases. Sold parts of my soul to appease your demons. What the hell to bring you peace? And my heart lay tossed to the ground, broken and neglected by you. Now you avoid me like the dark, and I'm done playing your fool. Almost died when you left me. Thought this pain would break me. Hear these tears would clear me. When I saw you release me, your love is only skin deep. So you deserve to miss me. You deserve to miss me. You deserve to miss me. Hurt and confused. Why do I deserve your hatred? As a villain I've been painted. Spitting venom in the mist, weaving lies as you spin, manufactured reality.